Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Marcus Canty here with First Class Real Estate here in Columbia, South Carolina. And this is calendar week 3 market update. All right, so we're going to get right into the thick of it, everybody. I've been doing a lot of notes. I know everybody has been concerned about rising interest rates as well as a possible bubble bursting here in 2022. So I want to lay some of your concerns to rest, okay? Overall, we're not looking at what you would consider a bubble bursting, but more like a leveling off and a plateauing. All right, so let's get into it here. I'm reading here from an article from Market Watch. All right, America's housing market is in the grip of an inflation storm. Now, as many of you may have suspected, that due to the quantitative easing that the Fed introduced based on the pandemic, right, we've had an increased supply of money. With that increased supply of money, the rates were lowered so that bonds would be more enticing to be bought, right, so that we can produce this new supply of money. So now that we've produced this new supply of money, you may have remembered back in the fall, they were talking about how we're not going to see inflation. If anything, we may see stagnation, right? So that's what we're starting to see here is stagnation, where you're seeing the price of goods continue to increase, everything from gas and bread. You go to the grocery store, I mean, you can actually see the difference in what everything costs every day. All right, so not only is this happening in your grocery store and at the gas station, but this is also happening in the real estate market, right? So let's look at it. We all know that our largest expense is going to be our housing. And just based on the fact that it's one of our 3 necessities, right? You need food, water, and shelter. So shelter being one of those, whether you own or you rent, is going to be, for most people, the largest portion of your monthly expenses. Okay, so I'm looking at a few indicators here. So we're looking at rising costs or at least what is causing this rising cost here, at least in the housing market. So for buyers, it's pretty simple. There's a real crunch on supply. We're at an all-time low in supply since the 1970s, right? And we've also had an increase in the buying population, which they're putting it all on the millennials, okay? Because all of the millennials are at the prime ages to be purchasing their homes, and they're getting settled into their careers. COVID has made things more flexible, so people are starting to work from home. They're looking for opportunities to migrate. We're seeing a lot of migration trends as well. And you can choose where you want to be. So millennials are continuing to look for homes. Rates are at an all-time low, so people are getting qualified. They're out there shopping. Simply put, there's more buyers than sellers out there right now. There's more people wanting to buy a home than there are homes to be bought. That's what's going on right now. We're going to take a look at a few more stats in a little bit. But let's see, a few things that we're looking at here is the shelter CPI index. And the shelter CPI index basically considers how much people are spending on their housing on a monthly basis. Now, the CPIs are not keeping up with what we're seeing in actual inflation in the rates that we're paying, because they're built in with a lag that only makes sense because it's survey dependent, right? And think about it this way. When you purchase a home for $200,000, even if the price or excuse me, the value of the home increases to $250,000, you're not changing your monthly payment. So if you were to answer that survey, you would still be answering with the same fixed rate mortgage that you started off with when you purchased the home, unless you refinanced, right? Same thing for a renter. You know, when you sign your lease agreement, you're not changing from month to month. The only time you're going to see a change is when you renew your lease or when you move somewhere. So these price indicators are not going to keep up with the with what we're seeing in inflation simply because you're going to see leases renewing once we get some more activity coming to these areas that may have been affected largely by the pandemic. And also, you're not seeing a lot of people move right now. All right, so we're going to talk about home sales, the trend in home sales, and everything. A leading measure of home prices, the S&P CoreLogic Case-Shiller Home Prices Index, notched a 19.1% annual gain in home prices nationally in October. So they're telling you year over year, we have seen a 19.1 increase. I'll say here in South Carolina, we're looking somewhere around a 15.2% increase year over year from December of 2020 to December of 2021, where the average home sale price in 2020 December was $210,000. In December of 2021, the average sale price was $242,000. So you do the math. All right. There's a large, we're going to get past that. Let's see what else we had here in my notes. All right, housing inflation. All right, so everyone's wondering, is the bubble here? Are we going to see a bubble? Is it going to burst? So I think what we have seen is a response to the decreasing supply of money, the decreasing supply of homes in relation to the increasing supply of money. So if you recall, once quantitative easing started taking place and the interest rates lowered, we had a record number of buyers. Freddie Mac, I believe, predicted that we were going to have 6.8 million sales, 6.8 million sales in the year of 2021. Right, that's a huge number. In 2022 is looking like it's going to be a similar number. It might only be number 2 to 2021. And I think that people were seeing the writing on the wall that interest rates were eventually going to go up. And I mean, as low as interest rates were in the spring of 2021, if you were not buying a home, you were deaf, dumb, blind, crazy, and crippled. All right. So now that those buyers have exhausted the supply, right? On average here in Columbia, we average about 1,300 sales per month, residential single family homes. So right now, I believe we have a total of 916. We have 916 homes actively on the market in the consolidated MLS right here today. All right, so if we're selling 1,300 homes on average and we have 916, we're at about 75% capacity right now. All right, so we're not seeing a slowdown in the sales. Actually, we're seeing an increase in the sales, especially coming through the fourth quarter of 2021. We saw increases consistently for 2 months in a row. When we saw a slowdown back in September, October, they kicked back up in November and December, and we finished out pretty much where we were at the end of the summer with a 3% increase in sales activity here in Columbia, South Carolina. All right, so the CPI housing components, I'm still reading from Market Watch, okay? The CPI housing components have been undershooting market rents, which have risen much more sharply, and it's not entirely clear why. I want to explain to you why the market rents have increased so dramatically over the past year. So one of my clients is an institutional buyer, or as they'll be mentioned later on in one of these articles I have here from Market Watch as well. They would be considered a real estate speculator, okay? And these clients are purchasing batches of houses, 20, 30, 40 houses in a single market, not just here in Columbia. They're also buying in Chattanooga, Tennessee. They're buying in Raleigh, Durham. They're buying in Charlotte. They're buying in Akron, Ohio. It's a really big thing, all right? So my buddy Ben Lovro talks about this. I really want you to go over to his channel, Ben Lovro, Lovro. He talks about the impending squeeze that's coming on private homeowners here in America. And you're looking at the fact that in the larger markets, you're seeing it, but in the mid-cap markets, you're really seeing it, where these investors, speculators are coming in and buying the homes at market rate or even 10 and 20% above. And I mean, they're just beating everyone out. In between the white labels we have making offers, and, you know, we had Zillow purchasing for a while. And, you know, just there's a commoditization, right? Everyone does need housing, but it's not something that can necessarily be commoditized in the way that I think that corporate America is trying to do it. And we're looking at a point here where we're saying 5 years, in about 5 to 10 years, it's going to be extremely difficult for you as an individual to purchase and own a home here in America, because they are going to be owned by corporations that are buying them now, where the money is being given so freely. Okay, right now we're talking about 3.5% interest rates on mortgages. We're not even talking about Fed rates. Now, the Fed rates are going to be increasing over 2022. Ben Bernanke came on back in December 15th, 2021, and announced that the Fed will be doing two things to help stemmy this whole stagnation thing that we have going on. Okay, so let's get it straight. The Fed only has two courses of action, right? They can either increase the supply of money, right, by buying more bonds, or they can increase or reduce rates. They can manipulate the rates. So they've already reduced the rates as low as they can possibly go. And they've already increased the supply of cash as much as can possibly the economy can possibly bear right now. So what they're intending to do is raise the rates, and they're going to do them in stages. And Meet Kevin actually did a really good job of covering how they weren't quite sure what they were going to do with rates. But at first they were saying this is a temporary inflation that would smooth out. And there's nothing temporary about inflation. Okay, if a banana costs 52 cents per pound one week and it costs 78 cents per pound the next week, it costs more. It ain't temporary. It's going to keep costing more. All right, so either way it goes, the main thing that is driving, I'm not even going to say driving the market or the lack of supply, but what is actually driving the continued increase we're seeing in housing prices, as well as the demand for these houses, are the millennial buyers, like I said already. Okay, another thing that has been a great concern, because during the pandemic, everyone kind of froze up. You know, we weren't sure if we were supposed to be around, if we were supposed to be showing houses, and shelter really became a priority on people's list. Right now, you're thinking about, I'm not selling my home. I don't have anywhere else to find. You know, in a time like this, there's no other houses to find unless you're doing an upgrade and you're willing to look for something else. A lot of people that are stuck in the mid-range, they're like, I'm not getting rid of my house. Are you crazy? I have a place to stay in the middle of a pandemic. Come on, man. So this housing market forecast for 2022, I'm going to look over what a lot of economists have been saying, as well as some market analysts. I'm going to share with you some of my thoughts about what's going on. So in 2022, the housing market had an outstanding year with record low interest rates, the longest yearly growth in single-family home prices and rentals, historically low foreclosure rates, and the highest number of home sales in 15 years, y'all. Ever since 2007, the market has not been moving like this. However, the housing market looks like it might be poised for a crash in 2022. So let's look at the most recent trends in the house market predictions for 2022. Properties sold rapidly. They were frequently above the asking price. They were having numerous buyers that were putting in multiple offer situations. There was cash on top. People were waiving the appraisal contingency it has been an absolute gunfight out here. All right, so mortgage rates have been at a record low, and the lack of availability of inventory has been sustaining the U.S. housing market demand. So I've already talked about how COVID-19 kind of shook things up, and people kind of froze in place for a minute. The inventory will remain scarce, right? Like I said, we have 916 active listings here in the consolidated MLS. So, and on average, we have about 1,300 home sales. And even though we have a seasonally slow market coming into these winter months, they were actually pushed back a little bit due to the uncertainty in the economy back during the summertime. But when what's his name, Biden, when he extended those benefits in June 24th for COVID relief, that started pushing the market a little forward. People started regaining some confidence in the market. So let's look for sale inventories. We saw a decrease last month, suggesting that the increase in sales may be modest. And looking at current trends, the existing home sales will rise in 2022 as a result of low mortgage rates, once again, and a strong labor market. And also a moderated house price growth. So you have some people like Zillow predicting a house growth rate of somewhere around 17.8, 17.9%, I believe. This is what I tell people when I talk to them on the phone. Don't trust Zillow. All right, please, please, please. I know y'all don't like talking to realtors. You don't want to talk about buying or selling a home. Zillow is a good quick reference if you want to be somewhere around the zone, right? But I would not rely on Zillow for accurate market information. The reason I tell you this is because they do not value your home the same way that a realtor or an appraiser would. So people are taking these numbers from Zillow and putting that, you know, you're attaching that to your home because you're seeing what Zillow said on their Zestimate. And I'm pretty sure they cracked the piggy bank. All right. If you don't know about that, we'll talk about Zillow in a little bit. But they have done a lot of their own speculation trying to AI the market. And they ain't got the answer for that. They didn't have the answer for the market. All right. So either way, what I'm telling you is listen to your real estate guy. Keep me in your back pocket. I'm telling you what's going on in these markets. I can take all these papers and throw them away, but I'm keeping them here for notes so I can make sure that I cover everything here for you. So where were we talking about? So the typical U.S. homeowner, the typical U.S. home was worth $316,000 in November of 2021. And that's up 19.3% from a year ago, or that would be November 2020. So I took a look here in the Columbia market, and that's where I said that in December of 2020, the average home sold on the MLS was $210,000. In 2021 December, the average home sale was $242,000. That's an increase of 15.2% year over year. So let's see, we have 1,054 active listings. 916 of those are single family homes. So it looks like home growth is trending upward in most large markets, while inventory is trending downward. That's something that we already know, making it more competitive, putting us in multiple buyer offer situations, right? So our prices are increasing as a result of enough money on the sidelines and very low mortgage rates. Homeowners, if we're talking about selling your home, I need you to pay attention here. Now, if you're trying to ride the balloon all the way to the top of the mountain, you need to think about this. The inflation that's coming from this money, it may go on forever, right? It may come to a point where we plateau and then we continue to increase, or we may get to a peak and drop, which I think most people are concerned about, right? And rather than going through that peak and dropping, a lot of people are trying to just ride out the middle, which I suggest that you should do, because according to the Mortgage Brokers Association, that the average sustained rate year over year in the United States for the past 35 years has been 2.9%. All right, so if you stay at an average 2.9% over a 20-year period, you're going to win. All right. It's the speculators, man. The speculators are going to be the ones that are going to feel the pain. So we're not going to point any elbows at them. Right? So, what do we have here? I can tell you about the speculators, but it's not that time. All right, so buying activity as measured through mortgage loan application volume has increased for the third consecutive week in November. That's the last numbers that I have. It's early January, so we're just getting the numbers in from November, right? Soon I'll have the numbers in from December. But that indicates that the housing demand remains robust despite the approaching traditionally slower holiday season. So loan applications for both conventional and government financing increased as well. Now, we're going to talk about this. My buddy, Coach Campbell, catch him on Facebook. I believe he's on Instagram as well. He was mentioning the fact that individuals buying homes were only accounting for around 36%, somewhere like we're under 40% of the home buyers in the current market. The current market is being bought by those real estate speculators and other corporations. All right. Demand declines primarily as a result of rising interest rate or a slowing economy in general. Right. So if we want to see this housing market stabilized, we'd have to see one of two things. We'd have to see one, a supply that meets the demand, right? So we still have what is estimated 1.9 million millennials that are looking to purchase a home here this year, and just been kind of sidelined, right? I mean, you know, it's been a rough year to try to buy a home, but they see these interest rates rising, so they're still incentivized to buy now. Nobody is really trying to wait until the springtime when the Fed said they're going to increase the rates in February. So get the money while it's cheaper now. For example, with the average rates, with the average rate here of 3.5, so many notes. With the average interest rate of 3.5, you would be paying $447 for every $100,000 that you borrow on a 30-year fixed mortgage. On a 15-year fixed mortgage, they're saying that it'll be a 404 or something like that. I'm not the mortgage broker. That's why I want to bring the mortgage guy on. So additionally, they forecast that house price growth of 16.9%. That was Zillow. However, the expected house price growth is expected to slow down to 7%. So what we're saying is, if you've seen these houses or these house values increase so dramatically over 2021, I want you to take into account that past results do not guarantee future results, right? Or you know what I'm saying, right? All right. With that being said, if you are looking to purchase a home, if you're looking to sell a home here in the Midlands in South Carolina, anywhere in South Carolina, if you're looking anywhere in the country and you would like my assistance with your home buying process, give me a shout, give me a call. If you haven't yet and you don't want to miss these market updates as I continue to post these every week, you need to hit the subscribe button down there. And I also need you to ding the bell over there so you can get this alert when I drop this good K-knowledge. So I'm Marcus Canty here in Columbia, South Carolina. If you have any questions, feel free to text, email, DM. You can get a plane and ride behind it with a message that says like, hey, Marcus, I have a question about real estate. And then I get a plane that responds back with one banner that says, why? No, or I'll just say, what? Either way, I'll talk to y'all soon. Thank you so much.